HIMS got hit with some pretty scary news recently, and in this video I'm going to break down exactly what you should be looking at and what you should be ignoring. I'm going to be sharing you what to look at, what to ignore, and how we've seen two other major companies be in this exact same position before, how they bounced back, what they've done, and what HIMS needs to be doing right now to start getting back to their all-time high numbers. Let's get stuck in.
Welcome to the game, it's the Instant Stocks by Mikhail Kuhar.
If you don't know who I am, my name is Mikhail, and I've been living remotely for the last 8 years. Freedom is my highest value, and I've built systems, software, businesses around that, not as a thesis or an idea that sounds good to go live like that. I've been able to do this for the last 8 years. Why? Because I partnered myself up with opportunities, teams, and systems to allow this in my life. I truly believe you cannot have freedom in life without two things. One of them is time, the other one is money. If you have time and you don't have money, you don't have freedom. And the other way around, that's just how it works. You need both of these things. So this is what led me down the path of helping to develop X10 Day Trade. And if you don't know what that is, we built an AutoPilot software, invested over $1 million in the last few years into this, making it better. It's been running now for 4 years. We have 483 members on the inside. At my current count, it might be 485 or 487 by the time this video goes out. And we built a software what essentially is like allowing professional traders to come into your house, sit at your computer, and do the trades for you. The great thing is you don't have to send any money to us. They execute all the trades, all the entries, all the exits automatically for you. Now, you may have joined signal groups before. I know I did for a long time, and I was quickly running to the computer, and between calls, I'd be on calls with clients, and I'd see a signal come through, and I'd buy it, and sometimes I'd miss the entry, I'd miss the exit, and you know what? It wasn't as reliable and as good as what it could be, but we saw a hole in the market, and we saw an opportunity. What if this was all automated? Turns out that's not an easy thing to build, and we've got it to a place where we are getting anywhere from 8 to 15% returns every single month for members. We've had some really, really big wins, but the thing I'm most proud of is the consistency of winning we have. So if you want to find out more, there's a link under this video. You can book a spot, jump on a call with me. I'll walk you through how the entire software works, find out what your goals are, and see if it's a good fit for you. If not, enjoy the video. Let's get stuck in. So the scary news, people are calling it a scandal, but honestly, I've seen this movie before. Let's talk about the pattern, and then we'll talk about really the math around it, right? When a growth stock gets punched in the face by regulators, lawsuits, scary headlines, the market always does the same thing, almost always does the same thing. So it panics first and then it asks questions later. So that panic usually pushes the stock way lower than the actual business changes in just a week. The business didn't fall apart. It's a headline crash. Okay. And right now, HIMS is in this spot. So what's actually happened over the last few days, the news got really loud. Novo filed a US patent infringement lawsuit and tied that to compounded versions of Wegovy and semaglutide. And at the same time, the FDA signaled it would take action around HIMS $49 weight loss pills. Now, this includes restricting access to ingredients and referring the company to the DOJ for possible federal law violations. These aren't empty bullets. Right. And on top of that, there's an FDA warning letter around September 9th, 2025 about allegedly misleading claims tied to compounded semaglutide marketing. So yeah, it's not fun news. It's not cute news, but it is real. And the key point is like this kind of moment, it's not new in growth stocks. And the real question is when the smoke clears, does the company still have a strong engine underneath? And to answer that, I want to show you two comebacks, not theory, real numbers, proven history of where companies have done this before. And more importantly, the exact pattern they followed. Let's start with Meta. And Apple tracking killed ads. The metaverse was burning cash, they said, and this company is finished. Now, I don't know too much about where the metaverse is at these days, but there was a big piece there where a lot of people were buying virtual land. Don't know if they developed, don't know if that's going to be a good long-term play. I would veer on the not so good long-term play, but hey, we'll see. It's not my area, it's not my space. So the stock got absolutely destroyed, and Morningstar pointed out that Meta fell from about $379 in August 2021 to around $88 in October 2022. That's roughly a 70% drop. People were calling it a disaster. Then Meta really done three boring but very effective things. They cut costs aggressively, they protected the core money machine, which that being ads, and they proved earnings and power again. Then what happened after that? NASDAQ later described it this way. Meta stock soared 547% from October 2022, its low, to about 497 by March 2024. That's basically a 6.5 times. So the narrative didn't kill the business. It just created a panic price. It created a frame that was easy to assign to because it was almost like this mass adaptation that this is the belief. This is the story that everyone wanted to run with, right? And that was the pattern. Like bad news sells so much better than positive news, and it's so much quicker to spread. That's why it can crash so damn quickly. So the crowd starts saying it's over, but the cash engine is still alive. It's still there underneath all the smoke and headlines and everything going on. Now, this is where you can get a violent upside later on. Let's also look at Netflix. Like, it's a different company, but it's a very similar pattern. Netflix had its own scandal moment. It wasn't a lawsuit scandal, but a confidence scandal. Subscribers were falling, growth is dead, the streaming wars are lost. And in 2022, Netflix got crushed. Like, Reuters covered this moment with the massive subscriber loss for them. They got really, really hammered. Now, if you look at the numbers, Netflix was around $174 in June 2022. And then in June 2025, Variety reported Netflix closed at $953, an all-time high close. That's about a 5 to 6x. So what did Netflix do? They added a cheaper plan with ads, they cracked down on password sharing, and they proved they could grow revenue and profits again. Now, the password sharing hit me big time. I was still using a very old friend's password at the time, and I got blocked out and I couldn't use it anymore. So I had to get my own, and it just wasn't because I didn't want to pay the $10 a month. It was just, I was logged in, I was already there, So I remember that moment personally because of this, right? And they would have turned a lot of money just from this small move. So when you already have a proven engine and a proven model in the marketplace, these small pivots really do ripple and create massive changes long term. Now, I'm not saying everyone using their ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend's Netflix log-on is the reason the company bounced back, but the market re-rated the stock from dying to a winner. Again, the panic was real at the time and the comeback was real. So what's the lesson here for HIMS? Now, I'm not saying HIMS will 5x, 6x, 7x. No one can promise that. And if anyone is promising you certainty in stock prices and what's going to happen, you should not be listening to them because none of us know. Like, I'm going to be honest, none of us know, but I'm speaking about a lot of potentials. And when I'm looking at this through the lens of business fundamentals and what they've done, what they're doing, and what they can do in the future. So what I'm saying is this setup just looks familiar. Like scary headlines, legal and regulatory uncertainty, investors dump first and then really think later, and valuation really, really gets crushed. And the comeback only happens if one thing is true. Like the core business engine still works, even if the GLP-1 path does change, because right now the market is basically saying, like, if weight loss gets harder, HIMS is finished. And that's a massive assumption, right? Like, even in the Reuters coverage about Novo suing, they still mention HIMS forecasting $2.3 billion in rev in 2025. That is not a tiny company. This is a real business with scale. Now, one thing you need to be really, really clear on is GLP-1 compounding is absolutely in the crosshairs. Like, there's no denying that. The FDA has talked about action. There's DOJ referral language, and Novo's lawsuit is real. So these are not empty threats. What does a smart growth company do in moments like this? It adapts, it pivots, it adjusts, it stops doing the riskiest thing fast if it has to, and it shifts into a safer lane. Branded partnership, different product formats, different categories, more service that lift revenue per customer, expanding that area, and it keeps the subscription engine growing and thriving. So that's what Meta did, that's what Netflix did, and that's what HIMS has to do now. So where does that 5x math even come from? A 5x from $18 is about $90. So how does stocks go from 18 to 90? Well, usually it's one of two ways. First, revenue grows a lot. If the business gets bigger, the stock usually follows. Second, the market pays a higher multiple again. When fear is high, the market pays a low multiple. Like when the fear fades, the market pays a higher multiple. So that multiple change is the hidden rocket. That's the moment in time where there's a massive opportunity. Like in crash moments, the market doesn't just trim the price. It really pushes down, it crushes it, and it often cuts the multiple in half or even worse. And then when the story stabilizes, the smoke clears, the multiple expands again. Like it's not like the doors and wheels all just fell off HIMS in the last few months. Like they're still there and they're still turning massive numbers. So that's how you can get from massive moves, even if the business just executes well moving forward. So what needs to happen for HIMS to have a history style comeback? Here's the checklist I'd really be watching. First, the company has to show this legal mess is containable. Clear moves, lower risk, visible compliance. It's going to be really interesting how they handle this. So the FDA has already shown it's really willing to escalate, so they can't handle this sloppy. Second, they need to show that even if a GLP-1 gets smaller or more regulated, the business can still grow. They can still keep customers, they can still add customers, and they can sell more per customer. The third part is they need to rebuild trust. Not hype, not vibes, Trust gets rebuilt with boring stuff. Clean execution, stable guidance, and numbers that keep climbing up. When I speak about trust, I'm not speaking about the customer side of things. I'm more speaking to the investor side of things. Like, there needs to be a bit more trust to bounce back well from how they handle this to really start bringing in more money and more investment. And this will lead to the numbers keeping decline. So when the market stops pricing doom, and that's when the scandal turns into a recovery, it turns into a bounce. So here's my final thought. Big comebacks happen when the headlines are scary, but the stock is crushed. But the business engine survives, and management proves it with execution. Meta did it, Netflix did it, and now HIMS is walking into the same kind of test. So what does this mean for me personally? I've been buying more and more positions into HIMS because I truly believe this is an opportunity, this is a moment, this is a chance for HIMS to really bounce back, and for us on the HIMS boat to really start seeing some big multiples coming into the back end of 2026 and 2027. So if you're looking for daily content on HIMS and everything going on, all these cases, all the headlines, all the drama, and what I think they're doing right, wrong, indifferent, subscribe, follow along. I'm going to be dropping videos to you daily, keeping you in the loop with what I'm doing, my opinions, and how I see the business fundamentals playing out. I'll see you tomorrow in the next video.